In your previous presentation, you had brought up varying perspectives about the cannabis industry, and I just wanted you to just sort of like give a description about that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cannabis supply chains are very similar to agricultural supply chains, but they're different in that there's a lot of very strict regulations, as well as a lot of consumer expectations around the end product being exactly the same every time in terms of its chemical potency.
Can you talk to us about just some of the challenges you're facing scaling up Canopy Growth in the cannabis market?
So I'd say for Canopy, the biggest challenge is really the speed at which the company grew and putting in place a lot of the governance and process and sort of mechanisms that a large company of its size and market cap would have had grown organically over the years. So to get a sense of scale, Canopy went from 30 employees in 2014, and now it's at almost 4,500 to almost 5,000 employees in 2020.
What are the future opportunities?
Yeah, so I think the cannabis industry, there's definitely a lot of hype. There's a lot of people trying to bring experience from big data, analytics. I think that there's probably some really big opportunities right now to bring a lot of the best practices around big agriculture to cannabis. There's a lot of things in cannabis that are still done very manually today by hand. For example, trimming product, whereas big agriculture does harvesting and trimming and sorting of crops on a massive scale with a lot less human hands.
In supply chain, we're talking about getting things at the right place, the right time, for the right price.
Yeah, so one challenge that is really big right now in cannabis is distribution, especially in Canada. When we launched in 2018 in the recreational market, legal market was only 5% of the total market share, right? 95% was still black market. In the past year, we've increased that market share to roughly 20%. And so again, still a long way to go. 80% of the cannabis market is still illegal. So I think with increased distribution, increased stores, I think we're going to see that number increase significantly.
Wow, that's phenomenal. How have you found APICS resources to be helpful to you or to Canopy Growth?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think one, it provides a standard framework for terminologies, for concepts, for ideas that anyone in any industry, whether you work in high tech or whether you work in steel manufacturing or in retail, we all have a common framework and language that we can share concepts around.
How is Canopy Growth managing its operations, given this unprecedented crisis?
Canopy has allowed a lot of its people to work remotely, and the ones who physically touch the product or need to come in, they're going in either staggered shifts. They're being tested every morning when they're coming in for any symptoms. And if there are any cases or any incidents, it's very easy to use our secured facilities traceability systems to say, okay, where was that employee? What other employees were in the room with them at the time? And we can very quickly get down to that patient zero level and make sure the right people are either isolated or retested so that they don't spread to other people.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay. Well, you've answered all my questions. I want to thank you so much again for taking the time to really sit with me to do this. Like I said, understanding just the cannabis industry, how it all works, is just fascinating to me, and I'm sure to a lot of our viewers. So thank you again for taking the time.
Yeah, my pleasure.